Hjertelig velkommen, folkens. Dette en Trondprod production for Normal I serien på Høy Tid. Dette sending nummer 3. Sendingen kommer til å foregå på engelsk, og den kommer til å legges ut på SoundCloud og diverse andre steder. Og det fritt frem til å spre denne sendingen. Well, then I go back to English, since I guess you, Peter, are very comfortable with the Norwegian language?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Peter Muyshondt, am I correct?
Muyshondt, yeah, but it's great. Okay. You're doing a great job.
Thank you. We are now speaking with Larry Kirk in the United States. I've been talking with Jason Reed in Great Britain, and now we come to Belgium. So I guess have a lot of the same problems, but you have present yourself. You've been a police officer for 20 years, was it?
Yeah, about it. I started doing my operational service in 1995, so it's about 21 years now. I've always been working in operational units, and now I'm a deputy chief of police since a few years now.
So how many years have you directly worked with the drug politics?
Well, I haven't been working in a special dedicated unit, because in Belgium there are only a few of those units in the federal judicial police. I've mainly been working in the local police, which is all first-line police work, and we deal with drugs as well as any other criminal felonies, whatever. So it's first-line policing, and in that capacity we have to deal with a lot of drug issues, dealers and consumers. Do you see,
but you know, working for Leap, I guess, what was your way into Leap? Because a lot of people I spoke with, they didn't start to see that new way to solve the drug problem. You started out as the Norwegian police. How did your way was into Leap?
Well, I'm not in Leap. I'm not into Leap, but I'm a policeman, and they've contacted me to start the Leap Belgium chapter, which I haven't done yet. But why did they contact me? Because I'm a police officer in active duty who has been pronouncing himself against the war on drugs and in favor of a legal regulation of all substances. I have lost my brother 10 years ago doing an overdose on heroin, cocaine, and a lot of other stuff, but he died when he was 28 years old. And during that time I was making a career in policing. And it took me some time to look at drug policy in a different way, because we've all been indoctrinated for several years, misinformed, and that is still going on. So once my brother died, there was no way back, and then you start reading, talking to people, trying to deal with the guilt you have, and then you get to learn a lot and see that things are fundamentally wrong as they are going on right now.
A lot of people I speak with in police and community and so on says they see what's happening and they are for changing in politics, but they can't say it out loud, frightened by destroy their own career. Is that the same problem in Belgium?
Well, it is. A lot of people, I think the same way as I do, but they don't speak out, because as policemen we are supposed to execute what policymakers decide for us, and we are allowed to question policy, but it is not always appreciated. But because I have lost a brother, and because I have a high rank in policing, frankly, they don't really know how to deal with me at this time. And I'm just putting out some question marks, saying that this actual drug policy is causing more harm than the drug itself. And it is allowed to speak out, but in police culture, it's not that common. Let's say that I have the benefit of having lost my brother, which is a strange thing to say, but I feel rather free to speak out now.
You're not afraid of any consequences, so what's going to happen?
I have been speaking out. I've been in national media for a few weeks now. I'm asked to speak out on several occasions. I haven't had any problems until now. I met the Minister of Justice. I've been speaking to some presidents of political parties. So I'm not really aiming one political party which could cause trouble. I am talking to everybody who wants to listen in and who is capable of changing policy, which I am allowed. I'm still doing my job. It would be different the day I'm not doing my job anymore. Then I can and I should be in trouble, because if I'm paid to do police work, I have to do it. But meanwhile, I can try to change policy by talking to people who are responsible for the policy.
How much, as a police, when it comes to policing, drug politics must consume a lot of time. It's plenty of time and resources. Am I right if you put that resources, if you cut the way, if you legalize drugs, how much would that help policing really when it comes to other things, like, because you have human trafficking, you have a lot of serious issues here in Norway. We cut investigation of violent crime because of drug politics. How is that in Belgium? How much time do you consume on drug politics benefits on other things?
Well, fighting drugs and dealers and consumers and everything that goes along takes a lot of capacity. It's a huge amount of money that we spend every year on policing the drug war. And not only in policing, it's also in the district attorney and the judges and prison. So it's a huge amount of money that is invested in something that isn't helping anything. But on the other hand, even if you go to a regulated system, you need policing to police a regulated system. There will always be some kind of black market. There will always be nuisance problems that go along, and that's inherent on policing anything. So, but it will definitely cost much less money than it is doing right now. And the money we can save, you could invest in more like social activity or reducing harms, because if drugs are still risky business, there will be people facing troubles using drugs. There will always be people who do not know their boundaries, or who will go into some kind of dependency or become addicts. And then you should invest the money in prevention and healthcare, and not in criminalization or incarceration people using drugs. And if you regulate the market, there will be a lot less crime. Definitely there will be, but there will still be crime, but a lot less than it is causing right now.
I just have your opinion, because in Norway we have so few prisons that we send our prisoners to the Netherlands, because we have too many convictions here of that type of crime. What is your thought about that we're sending people to another country just to keep on our drug war against drugs?
Well, I always thought that Norway had one of the most modern prison systems in the world. So this is new to me. I didn't know you were really sending people abroad to do time behind bars just for drug offenses.
Yes.
I thought you had those nice prisons on islands and where you don't really feel like you are incarcerated, which is a much better way, I think, to get people back in society afterwards. So I didn't know this. It's new to me, Trond.
No, it's we have a conservative government now who they want to be tough on crime. You know that that way of thinking.
It's always good to be tough on crime.
Yeah, when you're having a black tie and you now have to fight crime, then it's always want to play Chuck Norris, and we have that kind of government right now. So we're sending them to the Netherlands because the Netherlands have stopped incarcerating so many people with drug problems. So now they got the Norwegian prisons instead, and they're keeping their jobs. So it's a job program for Netherlands, really. I just ask every policeman in Europe, I come over, what their views on it, and everybody say what, just the same as you do.
Well, I'm learning every day. The more I'm into the topic, the more stupid I feel, and the less I know. That's the impression I have. The more I read and talk about it, I always feel like I'm and and. And I have to be honest, I have read a lot and spoken to a lot of people. But then again, I always feel stupid when I learn new things. This is so complex and this is so huge that it's always something new that I learn. This is new to me.
But my curiosity goes is that, Adam, how do you want to regulate the drugs?
Well, I think there are markets that are perfectly useful to use as an example. You go to tobacco, or you go to alcohol, or you go to legal medicine, or you go to fat meals. There are a lot of things that are riskful, that have risk when you take them, but that are completely regulated and under supervision of authority. You will never buy a bottle of wine in a shop that has been contaminated with some product that you don't know, just to make more wine and have more bottles to sell. It's you buy something that can be risky, that if you use it too much, you will get problems. But on the other hand, you buy something, you can read the label, what's in it. You have a fair price. There is some quality control, and I know that if I drink too much wine or beer or liquor or whatever, there are some health issues too, and I can become dependent on alcohol. So I know it. There is correct information about it, which there isn't when it concerns other products that are now illegal. So you have markets that could be completely useful to focus on and to copy. In fact, just copy the way those things are organized, learn from countries where they have experiments, and it's, to my opinion, it's completely feasible to regulate every product in which is available and that people consume for decades, and they will be consuming for centuries to come. So you can perfectly regulate those markets. There will always be risk. It would be completely stupid to say that regulated markets will not have any damage or not cause any troubles. That would be completely stupid. But the actual policies cause a lot more damages than regulated markets ever will.
Somebody like me have compared this war on drugs with the same war we had on alcohol during prohibition times. A lot of people says, yes, that can't be, you can't compare it because alcohol has always been there and have been part of our culture. What is your comment on that?
Well, cannabis has been used for 3,000 years before Christ. Poppy, opium, there has been discoveries from the same age. Coca leaves have been used by native people in South America. I think they're even older. The use of those products is even older than alcohol. Alcohol has been, let's say, more like a discovery. You put some fruit in a bowl, you put some fermentation in it, like you spit on it, and then you get alcohol. This is the way alcohol has been found some centuries ago. But it's the same like with cannabis and opium, and so those products have been used for the same period as alcohol has. So there's always been use of cannabis, there's always been use of opium, but then when you start put it into the illegality, then you get the stronger products and the variants. Is that the correct word? Variants?
Yeah.
Which you wouldn't have if you let everything in the legal markets. People are not always looking for the most potent products; they're just using for the product.
Somebody said to me, because we have a lot of campaigns here against legalizing any kind of drug here in Norway. You have the police narcotic union organization who travel around the schools and say why they have to punish people. And one of the argument is that you're sending a signal when you punish people. It's also a solidarity with the people who die of overdose. And I'm just asking you that because you lost your brother. Why? So you know secondhand about it. What I have to say to people is that you wanna put people in jail because it's a solidarity with people who are suffering.
Well, I feel much better when people are incarcerated because of the death of my brother, which is completely stupid, of course.
Yeah.
If drug policy would have been different in the way my brother was still alive, he would be still alive. If there would be heroin-assisted treatment, which is not allowed in Belgium, but if it would have, then my brother would still be alive. We wouldn't be having this conversation if this kind of therapy, which is common in Switzerland and other countries, then my brother would still be alive. We wouldn't even have this discussion. I wouldn't be fighting against the war on drugs, because then my brother would have a problem with dependency on heroin. Like, I think there are millions of people dependent on illegal medicine, but they're not criminals. They're not. You don't put people in jail because you want to be solidar. You have to show your solidarity with people hooked on Valium, for instance. That's completely stupid, to my opinion. I'm not looking for people getting behind bars so that I feel better because my brother died.
Yeah, they say they're sending a signal to others that this is dangerous. They can get in prison, so you not try cannabis. That's basically what they say in Norway.
Well, I shouldn't pay too much attention to those people.
Well,
those kind of discussions really suck. It doesn't bring us anywhere. So
no.
It's like let's put people behind bars because they want to jump out of an airplane with a parachute, which is risky too. People like it. They look for kicks. So there are some casual accidents, of course. There will be. So now let's put people in jail because they want to have the same extreme, like they call it, extreme sport, because some people die of it. Now let's get serious.
Yeah. No, I'm just quoting what people some.
Yeah, I know, Tom,
yeah.
but
I just had to say it because I like to hear what you say as a police officer in difference from the police officers in Norway. So that was very refreshing, very nice, good to hear. But putting drug addicts in prison also is giving them a career in crime, because you see a lot of people who don't have a criminal career in the first place getting teased up in prison. Isn't that so?
Well, I assume it is. I don't think prison is a good environment to refresh and to think about things that has happened. You're among people who have committed other crimes, not always drug offenses, but also other crimes. People have to serve time. It's not like it's one healthy environment in a prison. It's. I think I just read an article where about half of people in prison are hooked to alcohol or other drugs. So I think it's more like a way to escape the reality that they are in. So people are going to reach out for drugs more because they just want to escape the reality they have to face for a lot of years. And then we think that one day they are put, or they get free, they get back into society like, hey, I'm happy you put me behind bars for so many years because I just smoked a joint or something. What good would that be? So if people really are committing crime like stealing from people or murdering people, or that's a different question. Then again, I seriously put some question marks on the system of prisons, whatever. But there are always people who needs to be taken out of society for a certain amount of time. Definitely. There are people really dangerous for other people. But mainly, I don't think prisons are good for anybody.
I just have to tell you a little story, because in Norway, we are in Bergen, because they have they start giving the people who have drugs fines, so they get more and more and more debt. So if they ever get off drugs, they have a big debt to the state.
Yep.
Can you just Just tell me how you think that is fucked up.
Well, I saw it with my brother. He too got into debt, and he got a fine from the judge, and he couldn't pay because which is one thing that severe users or junks, I call it junks. Don't go around it. My brother was a junk. When he was in that stage, he didn't have any money. The only thing he had was a huge debt rate. So he had several 10,000s of euros in debt, fines he couldn't pay. So it was one. It's a vicious circle, and thinking that another fine or another penalty or another conviction will help anybody beside the conscience of some judges or politicians, well, that's completely stupid. You're making the problem bigger, always. Every time you're making it bigger and bigger and bigger. So frankly, I don't think when you get into that stage of drug use, it isn't a problem. You have other problems, and we don't face those problems. The drug use is just a symptom. It's an escape from something else. It can be a psychiatric disease. It can be a traumatic experience from the past. It can be even in your brain. You have people who are more vulnerable to addiction than others, but the drug abuse is always a consequence of something else.
Yeah.
To my opinion. But who am I? I'm just a cop. I'm just a policeman.
No, you're the first in line. In Norway, they have some police statutes that said that they shall keep an eye on people who are working for legalization. What are your opinion on that? Do you think the police should police monitor or watch over people who's like me who's for legalization? That is very strange, but that's a police article in Norway.
Well, I think that is strange. I think police has another role to play. We have to make sure that society is safe, that people can express or live their democratic rights, so they can go on the streets and say I'm against or in favor of or this or that, and we have to make sure that people can do so. So that is what the role in policing in Belgium, at least, it is. It is also based on the Universal Declaration of the human rights, those kind of things, freedom of speech, freedom of reunion, those kind of things. That is the role of police. I don't think the role of police should be monitoring people who have another opinion than mainstream. I think that's frankly, I think that's dangerous role police has to play. It refers to me like in the World War. Yeah. In police and police of Antwerp, where I've been working for several years, there were two sides. The one side was working with the German, and the others were against. So I think police has to be neutral, but that's something else than saying, listen, this or that policy is not working. Maybe we should try something else, because at the end, even prohibitionists or people for legalization, we all want the same. The way we want to reach this is different.
Yeah.
We want safe societies, and we want policing that is good for society, and if it doesn't cost too much, that's even better. So now we are spending a lot of money on something that's not working, but I think a lot of people are just afraid. They are not informed properly. They think it is evil, drugs are evil, it's dangerous, and I think that is the role we can play. Even as a policeman, we can say, listen, you are wrongly informed, please read this, or you should know that 90% of drug users are not addicts, 10% is hooked and can have a problem, but then again you have to look more deeper, and then even a huge amount of those people will have other problems like, as I've been telling you before, psychiatric health or trauma or whatever, and then you have to face those problems and not the drug use. The drug use itself, it will stop if you face the real problem that's behind. I've never met any person who has been helped if he has a psychiatric disease or trauma or whatever. No, not one of those persons can be helped with putting them in jail. It's like people with cancer. We're going to help them by putting them in jail. It's if you start looking at it, it's so strange that a lot of people still are thinking that way. That's a challenge. The challenge we have to face.
But why is the debate so hard? I heard everybody gets in trouble. Everybody know about David Nutt in Britain, who gets sacked by the government just because he even find studies. He was a scientist. He took a science approach. In Norway, you can risk losing your job. I can risk losing my job. Why is this debate so extremely hard to take? In every other issue, it's okay. You can be for against NATO, for against the European Union. When it comes to drugs, well, you should not have any diversity. You don't just have to be on board on the prohibition train. Why is that?
Because I think it's more like people like to choose the easy way. We've been trained like this for almost a century. I think in Belgium the drug law is from 1921, which is almost a century old. It's dated from just after World War II. World War One even. We have been indoctrinated by our politicians, also by mainstream media. How many movies haven't we seen in all those years about drugs, and the images we get from people using drugs are always the images like the ones, like the pictures you should have taken from my brother in these last years. It's the worst image. You never get pictures of people using drugs that are perfectly working people or businessmen in a suit. They use drugs too. That's the 90%. But you don't get images. Making a movie of a system where drug markets are legally regulated would be a completely boring movie. It's like you go to the shop, you buy something, you go home and you use. That's not fun at all. And then again, when you look at history, a lot of drug issues are based in racism, in focusing on some minorities, like the hippie movement, like the blacks, the black and coke. There has been some framing in some earlier years.
Richard Nixon even admitted he was against the culture of the hippies. It was not about drugs, it was because he didn't like people who were demonstrating on his lawn.
Well, it is. If you look into history, then you have a completely other image of our view on what's been going on. But I think ties are changing. I think everywhere in the world you see things happening, and I'm quite positive about the future.
But do you go. Sorry.
Yes, no. Please go.
Do you think Belgium will get the same laws as maybe, because you're very close to the Netherlands, so how could you maybe be a little bit more liberal? What do you think about the model Netherlands have, or Switzerland or Portugal? Do you think that is some way you can get into the Belgium and other countries?
At this time we have a pretty conservative libertarian government. Under this government there will not be any changes at all. Yesterday they had a debate with all the ministers of the country. We have a lot of ministers because we have 6 governments even in a small country like Belgium. But there was this conference about alcohol, and one of the topics was also like the drug consumption rooms. But it was a niet all over the way. The whole line was a niet. So they really do not want to talk about it in this government. But on the other hand, from the opposition side, there are some strong voices raising about legalization for starters, cannabis, and even other products. So you can't deny sunlight. You can't deny reality. What's happening in the United States right now will influence the debates. they're the basis of the drug laws as we know them right now. But then again, all their states are at least different states are legalizing against the will of the United Nations, against the offices installed by the United Nations, and against the White House, because there's a huge influential body working there too. So if this is going to continue, I don't think that in 10 years things will look like they do right now. I think it's unstoppable, and I've talking to some other people who think the same. We don't need to change the conventions. I think in 10 years reality will look completely different, and the conventions will have to be changed because they will no longer correspond to reality.
But we had a UN meeting now in April, and that didn't come very very far that I hoped. But what can you do? What do you think this can be a topic for the European Union? Is there anything you can do on that level?
Well, on the international level, Europe has nothing to do with drug policies. You have the single convention and the three conventions in the United Nations. But on the other hand, if Europe, which Europe has a European policy plan too, if Europe stands up and say, listen, this is not what we want, I think Europe can play a huge, significant role in the debate. If you look at some European countries right now, they are way ahead, but the only thing that's really holding them back for going even further are those international conventions. Portugal is from 2001, if I'm correct, that they have been decriminalizing all drug possession. The results are huge. So you cannot deny those. You cannot keep denying those positive effects. But I think it's up to some politicians now, and then you have a very moralistic or ideologic discussion which has nothing to do with science, which has nothing to do with evidence-based. They use it to show their leadership because they're tough on crime. I think our role is to inform people, and if we do that, and we do it on an organized way, those one-liners will not hold. I think we can influence politics by just informing people, and I think that's a very good and realistic objective. We can start fighting it, or we can try to focus on people who have to vote. And if we convince them that, listen, what you are telling here all the time about drugs or evil is just a bunch of bullshit, you have a correct message, like drugs are risky business. You can have problems using drugs, but 90% off and blah 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 blah. Then I think we can make a difference. We can make a difference.
Well, thank you. What would you say to the Norwegian police? I know I'm going to be very unpopular with the Norwegian police right now, but what do you want to say to them when it comes to the politics in this country and what they should do? Because they need to get a message, and I found no better man to deliver that message than a police officer.
Well, who am I to say something to Norwegian police? I think as you started our conversation, a lot of them are already convinced that this actual drug war or these actual drug policies don't do any good. There are always people, law-abiding citizens, who will not use drugs just because of the law. But then again, they will start drinking, and they will do other things that are legal but even unhealthy. So I don't think the Norwegian police has to be told anything. I would like only to suggest to those people who really believe in the war on drugs to listen to people who have lived it. Open up your mind, listen to people who have another opinion. They are not the enemy, they are with you, but they have maybe some more knowledge or maybe some other insights. it's at least worthwhile listening to them, and then you can make up your mind. But open up and be interested in what people like you, Trond, are telling the world. We are not going to say, listen, let's blow together, let's organize a blow in, and let's get high all together. I think driving a car under influence of any drugs should not be allowed. There's a role for police. Minors shouldn't use it. If you go to a restaurant, you shouldn't be bothered by somebody blowing or blowing a joint next to you. I'm not into drugs. I don't like drugs. I've never used them. So please don't bother me with your habits. Do it when you're on your own in your house. But it's so stupid to just put people behind bars or punish them because they are taking a product to feel better or to feel less worse. And all policemen who are really not buying this just make the comparison with alcohol or smoking. They're both completely unhealthy. Look in the mirror and say, listen, what I'm saying to myself when I have another glass of beer, let's change it into a piece of space cake. Does that make me a sick person, or does that make me a criminal by just eating some space cake? And maybe that should be the question. Do I do anybody else some harm? Are there victims in what I do? No, I'm just eating something that makes me feel good. Does that make you a criminal or not? Well, I don't think it is. I don't think you are a criminal because you take something which is your personal, your individual choice. And frankly, I don't think government should get into something that is completely or purely individual.
Just one last question, and this is very easy. I think it's a no-brainer. A lot of people say this is about money. Is there any way that we can win the war on drugs? We tried now since 1972. Are there any way? Some people just say put more money into it, but are there really any way to win the so-called war on drugs?
No, of course it's not. It's unwinnable. It's a defeat from the beginning. We gave it a fair shot. We gave it a fair shot for now almost 50 years or something. So I think we should now see that it's not working. There's never been more cocaine traveling through the port of Antwerp since the last few years. So all this war thing doesn't help anything at all. So, well, but like prohibition, the alcohol prohibition, it took some 12 years or something, and then they said, listen, this is not working. Maybe for the war on drugs we need some more time, but finally I think common sense will win, and this war will end. I think there is no other option. There is no other way.
Thank you, Peter.
That's my opinion.
Thank you, Peter. It was nice having a conversation with you. Dette var Trond Vatne Tveiten. Dette var en Trond Prod Productions for Normal i serien på Høy Tid.